Investigative reporter Eric Rasmussen is here with a new guilty plea. And Eric, this just came down this afternoon.
Right, we're talking about Abdi Wahab Mohammed. He was part of a group accused of stealing more than 17 million taxpayer dollars.
Congresswoman Ильхан Омар is endorsing Senator Omar Fateh, his biggest endorsement so far.
Investigative reporter Eric Rosen just uncovered a massive new twist in Minnesota's Feeding Our Future fraud case. Prosecutors confirmed that Abdi Wahab Mohammed has pleaded guilty after being accused of stealing more than $17 million in taxpayer funds. Investigators say he even tried to intimidate a co-defendant into staying silent before finally admitting to wire fraud and money laundering. This case is just one piece of the staggering $250 million federal food program scam, one of the largest frauds in Minnesota's history. And now, the most unsettling part. Political figures are reportedly being tied, at least indirectly, to the scandal's fallout.
Fraud investigation.
Investigative reporter Eric Rasmussen is here with a new guilty plea. And Eric, this just came down this afternoon.
Right, we're talking about Abdi Wahab Mohammed. He was part of a group accused of stealing more than 17 million taxpayer dollars. A judge threw Mohammed in jail this week after prosecutors accused him of witness tampering ahead of his trial. They say he confronted a co-defendant at the Mall of America and made her promise not to testify against him. Jury selection at the federal courthouse in Minneapolis was supposed to start next week. Now, today, Mohammed pleaded guilty to wire fraud and conspiracy to commit money laundering, all of it connected to false claims that he helped feed thousands of children a day during the pandemic. Mohammed was the final holdout in his group of 8 defendants who also took plea deals. Eric Rasmussen, 5 Eyewitness.
Hey, Eric, thank you for the update.
Amid the growing fallout from the Feeding Our Future fraud scandal, Congresswoman Ильхан Омар is back in the spotlight after officially endorsing Senator Omar Fateh in his run for Minneapolis mayor. Supporters are calling it a major boost for his campaign, easily his most significant endorsement yet. But critics argue the timing couldn't be worse. Both Omar and Fateh have faced public scrutiny over their indirect connections to the ongoing controversy. The move has reignited debate across Minnesota, with many residents questioning whether this alliance signals a fresh start for local leadership or just another case of political overlap in the wrong moment.
Weeks to go until Minneapolis elects a mayor, a major announcement. Congresswoman Ильхан Омар is endorsing Senator Omar Fateh, his biggest endorsement so far. Here is Esme Murphy with our exclusive story.
Well, I'm excited to announce that I will be supporting Senator Fateh for the mayor of the city of Minneapolis.
Our Congresswoman, who I'm really excited to have her support.
The Feeding Our Future case is one of the biggest and boldest frauds uncovered during the pandemic. Investigators say several organizations claim to feed thousands of children daily, but most of it was completely fake. Made-up invoices, false meal reports, and exaggerated numbers. Instead of helping kids, millions in taxpayer money went toward luxury cars, designer goods, and expensive homes. What started as a charity effort turned into a money grab, exposing just how easily good intentions can be exploited. And now, the case is spreading into Minnesota's political circles, raising serious questions about oversight and accountability.
Minneapolis seems to be a tale of two cities, one for the wealthy and the well-connected, and the rest of everyone.
Senator Omar Fateh is now facing serious questions about his ethics while in office. Reports claim he supported a housing bill without revealing that his wife was connected to a company that could benefit from the legislation. Fateh argues that the bill was designed to help local residents and strengthen housing access, but records later confirmed his wife was still listed as an owner in one of the related businesses. Legal analysts say that connection creates a clear conflict of interest and raises broader concerns about honesty and transparency in public service.
I have trust in the senator's track record. He will find a way to make sure that we have ordinances, legislation that is passing through that speaks to the desires and the needs of the residents of this.
A detailed CARE 11 investigation uncovered that Senator Omar Fateh's wife, Ku Mohammed, co-owned Community Development Services LLC, a housing stabilization company. At the same time, Fateh was introducing legislation to fast-track approvals for those same types of programs. Public records confirmed that she was still tied to the business, during that period. A Hamline University ethics professor described it as government ethics 101 gone wrong. While fate continues to deny any wrongdoing, critics argue it highlights a deeper issue: the growing overlap between personal benefit and public duty.
People stop me and they tell me that we're really hurt and upset by what happened with the DFL taking back.
As the scandal deepens, the web now stretches closer to Congresswoman Ильхан Omar's circle. Former aide Gahad Hassan has pleaded guilty to conspiracy to commit wire fraud and money laundering in direct connection to the Feeding Our Future investigation. Prosecutors say he falsified meal counts to siphon government funds meant for children in need. His plea ties the controversy directly to Omar's former staff, raising growing questions about how far the knowledge or influence may have reached.
It was not a finance bill. It was not to benefit my wife or anyone. It was a program integrity.
Public outrage has erupted across Minneapolis as residents grapple with how a program meant to feed children during the pandemic turned into a multi-million-dollar fraud scheme. Many say they feel deeply betrayed, watching public figures like Ильхан Omar and Omar Fate appear in the same conversation as the scandal. For voters, it's no longer just about fraud, it's about integrity. The backlash signals a growing demand for accountability and transparency in Minnesota's political leadership.
Tonight, new questions about politics, ethics, and a candidate for Minneapolis mayor. A KARE 11 investigation into Minnesota's troubled housing stabilization program, already exposed for widespread fraud, now reveals an unexpected connection to candidate and state senator Omar Fatah. Lou Ragus is here now with details. Lou?
And Julie, right up front, I want to be clear. We found no evidence of billing fraud here. However, we did discover something raising what a legal expert labels serious ethical concerns. Senator Omar Fatah's wife was a listed owner of a housing stabilization company, even as the senator and current Minneapolis mayoral candidate himself was pushing legislation to fast-track client approvals for the taxpayer-funded program.
Senator Fatah, Senate File 2741.
A bill that will address a critical delay in access to housing stabilization services, also known.
Newsrooms across Minnesota are peeling back the layers of this growing scandal. Investigations by KARE 11 and WCCO have revealed questionable paperwork, campaign ties, and potential conflicts of interest within state leadership. Each report deepens the political tension, exposing how intertwined lawmakers, nonprofits, and federal funds have become. With election season approaching, the demand for transparency and accountability is intensifying, and silence is no longer an option.
This is a situation where I think almost anybody schooled in, government ethics 101 would know that you can't introduce legislation that benefits yourself.
Now, the internet can't stop buzzing over the irony of it all. Omar endorsing Omar. On one hand, Ильхан Omar's former aide just pleaded guilty in the same massive fraud case. On the other, Senator Omar Fate is under fire for ethics violations tied to his wife's business dealings. Their alliance in the Minneapolis mayor race has become a lightning rod for debate, hailed by some as unity, slammed by others as hypocrisy. No matter how you spin it, the optics are impossible to ignore.
That's pretty powerful evidence that somebody still is involved with an organization.
As Election Day draws closer, Minneapolis voters face a defining choice: whether Omar Fate can be trusted to lead the city with Ильхан Omar's backing, or if the growing wave of scandals has already eroded public trust beyond repair. Prosecutors continue securing guilty pleas in the Feeding Our Future case, and watchdogs warn more names could surface soon. Minneapolis now stands at a crossroads between reform and reputation. The question is, will voters choose change or repeat history?
President Trump referencing reports that Congresswoman Ильхан Omar may have married her brother back in 2009. Now, Omar denies this, but a new report claims to have enough evidence for authorities to investigate the first Somali American in Congress. Trace Gallagher is in our West Coast newsroom live with the details. Trace.
Laura, investigative reporter David Steinberg with PJ Media has been following this story for almost a year. Now, Steinberg claims that through social media and numerous interviews with the Minnesota Somali community, he has the evidence to prove that Ильхан Омар entered into a sham marriage with her brother and participated in, quoting here, fraudulent activities and willful misrepresentations related to her marital arrangements. According to his reporting, Omar came into the U.S. in 1995 as a fraudulent member of the Omar family.
As prosecutors dug deeper, the full scale of the Feeding Our Future operation came into focus. A web of deception built on fake rosters, forged invoices, and inflated meal counts. On paper, it looked like thousands of children were being fed every day. In reality, many of the feeding sites didn't even exist. The paperwork was so polished that banks and auditors were fooled for months. Court filings now show that Abdiwahab Muhammad was a key link, coordinating communication between the nonprofit and a network of shell companies moving millions.
Using their last name to apply for asylum. Steinberg says her real name is Ильхан Noor Saeed Elmi. And in 2009, she married Ahmed Noor Saeed Elmi, her biological brother, who applied for asylum under his real name. Steinberg also says he has the evidence to identify Omar's biological sisters and father. He goes on to say Omar should be investigated for perjury, immigration fraud, tax fraud, student loan fraud, and bigamy. Scott Johnson worked with David Steinberg on the piece and earlier spoke with Tucker Carlson. Watch.
The sham marriage part, I would put at a 98% level of certainty. That's my view. The marriage to her brother part, I would put at about a 90% level of certainty.
Investigators say Muhammad played a key role in keeping the fraud airtight, ensuring fake meal claims matched perfectly across multiple partner sites to avoid raising red flags. Prosecutors allege he personally pocketed millions in kickbacks, later funneled into real estate and luxury cars. The scheme exposed how easily federal relief programs can be abused when speed outweighs scrutiny. Several defendants admitted they knew the system's urgency during the pandemic meant fewer checks, and they exploited that gap for massive payouts.
We should note Fox News has also looked into these allegations, but we have not found concrete evidence to confirm them, though Ильхан Омар has stonewalled nearly all questions and inquiries. Therefore, getting to the truth has proven elusive for a number of news outlets. Her spokesperson told the Minneapolis Star-Tribune that she is often the target of conspiracy theories and false accusations, and that media outlets shouldn't, quote, fan the flames of hate. Though it appears the Minnesota Campaign Finance and Public Disclosure Board is also fanning the flames of hate because it has ruled that Omar violated campaign finance rules and ordered that she reimburse her former campaign committee. The board says Omar and her current husband filed joint tax returns. Problem is, at the time, she was married to another man, namely.
In some cases, people who had never operated a food program before suddenly claimed to be feeding thousands of children each day. The system's trust-based design made it a goldmine for opportunists. Investigators say the fraud spread through tight-knit community circles, where trusted figures were convinced to sign off on fake reports for a share of the profits. Relatives and friends were enlisted as site managers, creating fake attendance sheets and inventory logs. What began as local deceit soon ballooned into one of the largest pandemic-era frauds in U.S. history.
Ahmed Elmi. Laura.
Wow. Again, as Trace just laid out, Fox has not independently verified this extensive information laid out by this independent journalist, but it does raise the question, why aren't any mainstream media outlets looking into this? Well, Omar's local paper, the Star-Tribune, last penned a piece nearly a month ago. We reached out to them and they refused to give us a clear answer as to their future coverage. But what about the Washington Post, the New York Times, AP? You think that, issues over naturalization, immigration status of a member of Congress who's become so prominent, so powerful, so fast would be of interest to the media. Just any glimmer of curiosity? Here now, the man who actually launched this investigation in the first instance, Minnesota State Rep Steve Drazkowski. Steve, what is behind the larger media blackout on this?
As national attention grew, outrage spread over how such large-scale fraud went unnoticed by the Department of Education and other oversight agencies. Lawmakers demanded accountability, pushing for stricter audits and stronger safeguards on federal relief funds. The case quickly became a symbol of pandemic-era mismanagement, uniting both parties in criticism of the system's failures. In one gripping court hearing, a former Feeding Our Future employee revealed she had warned superiors about suspicious activity months before investigators stepped in, but her concerns were ignored.
Well, Laura, thank you. Actually, David Steinberg and others have been working on this for about 3 years now, and they have really spoon-fed this to the media. But when you've got media like the Minneapolis Star-Tribune in Minneapolis here that has a giant fawning portrait of Ильхан Омар hanging on their lobby wall, and I'm going to say that again, I mean that literally. They have a large portrait of Ilhan Omar hanging on their lobby wall in the Star-Tribune office.
And so we got to get a copy of that. We got to get a picture of that. That's hilarious.
I can send it to you.
Okay.
And so that is what we are dealing with here in Minnesota.
Her testimony revealed a devastating reality, a workplace where loyalty to the scheme outweighed integrity. After raising alarms, she was fired, effectively punished for trying to uphold the law. Prosecutors emphasized that this wasn't just financial fraud, it was a moral betrayal. The defendants exploited a system meant to feed hungry children during one of the hardest times in recent memory. Instead of meals for families, taxpayer dollars bought luxury cars, designer jewelry, and million-dollar homes. A stark reminder of how greed can twist even the most compassionate programs.
And over again, the media has been stonewalling this for the last year, and so we're really frustrated and really appreciate you reaching out and covering some of this.
So what Steinberg says is that basically in 1995, Ильхан entered the United States as a fraudulent member of the, quote, Omar family, but that's not her family. The Omar family is the second unrelated family which was being granted asylum by the United States. The Omars allowed Ильхан.
Again and again, Steinberg claimed, the media has ignored this story for over a year, a point of growing frustration for those demanding answers. According to him, in 1995, Ильхан Omar allegedly entered the United States by falsely claiming to be part of the Omar family, a group that was legally granted asylum. But, he says, she wasn't actually related to them. Instead, the real Omar family allegedly allowed Ильхан and her siblings to assume their name in order to secure entry into the country. Interview. The scope of the Feeding Our Future scandal has pushed sweeping reforms across federal nutrition programs. Agencies have now introduced tighter documentation standards, real-time audits, and cross-agency data verification to prevent similar abuse. Experts say these measures are necessary to rebuild public confidence, though the damage to community trust may take years to heal. Defense attorneys have argued that some defendants were simply following orders or misunderstood the complex system, not masterminding the fraud. But prosecutors dismantled that claim, revealing evidence of coordinated deception and deliberate misuse of funds that AS sentencing nears. The case stands as one of Minnesota's darkest chapters, a $250 million lesson in how unchecked greed and weak oversight can corrupt even the most well-intentioned programs. What began as a mission to feed children ended as a blueprint for reform, reminding everyone that accountability isn't optional. It's the foundation of public trust.